Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Insight Room, where we understand the mind one insight at a time. Today, we're going to talk about autism in adults, especially the kinds of signs that can be missed when someone is verbal, intelligent, employed, socially motivated, or able to mask well. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, is one of the most misunderstood conditions around mental health. Many adults spend years wondering why certain aspects of life seem more confusing, exhausting, or effortful than they appear to be for other people. But before we begin, I want to provide a brief disclaimer. This video is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not therapy, psychological treatment, individualized medical advice, or diagnostic evaluation. Watching this video cannot determine if you have ASD or not. If you have concerns about autism or another mental health condition, please consider talking to a qualified mental health professional. When people think of autism, they picture a narrow stereotype sometimes. They may imagine a young child who is socially withdrawn, avoids eye contact, has obvious communication difficulties, or displays repetitive behaviors that are easily noticeable to others. Those presentations do exist, but autism is much broader and more diverse than many people realize. Some autistic individuals have limited verbal language. Others have emerging verbal skills. Still others are highly verbal, highly educated, successful in their careers, married, raising families, and functioning independently. Strong language skills, employment, relationships, or intelligence do not automatically rule out autism. Many adults who eventually receive an autism diagnosis spent years being described as shy, anxious, sensitive, awkward, eccentric, introverted, gifted, difficult, or simply different. Some may have been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, ADHD, OCD, or other conditions long before autism was ever considered. Sometimes those diagnoses are accurate and sometimes they're incomplete. Autism is often missed when people only look at surface functioning rather than the amount of effort required underneath. One of the most common experiences autistic adults describe is, "I've always felt different, but I couldn't explain why." Many describe feeling like everyone else received a social rulebook that they somehow missed. They may have learned how to socialize, make eye contact, and navigate friendships or relationships, but unlike many non autistic people, these skills often required conscious effort rather than developing automatically. One way to describe it is autistic people often have to understand scientifically what non autistic people seem to understand instinctively. I think that is a useful way to conceptualize the experience because many autistic adults do not necessarily lack social interest. Instead, they may approach social interaction differently. Rather than intuitively understanding the flow of a conversation, they may actively analyze it. They may consciously monitor facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, conversational timing, and social expectations in ways that require significant mental effort. This brings us to one of the most important concepts in understanding adult autism: masking. Masking refers to hiding, suppressing, or compensating for autistic traits in order to fit social expectations. A person may force themselves to make eye contact, rehearse conversations before having them, memorize social scripts, study how other people behave, copy facial expressions, suppress stimming behaviors, or carefully monitor how they come across to others. Masking can be incredibly effective. In fact, some autistic adults become so skilled at masking that the people around them have no idea how much effort is involved. Coworkers may see a confident professional. Friends may see someone who is socially capable. Family members may see someone who appears completely typical. What they often do not see is the exhaustion that comes afterward. Many autistic adults report feeling drained after social interaction, even when the interaction was positive. They may need significant time alone to recover. Some describe feeling like they are constantly performing rather than simply being themselves. One reason autism can be missed in adulthood is because people often focus on whether someone can socialize rather than asking how much effort socializing requires for them. A person may have friends and still be autistic. A person may be married and still be autistic. A person may be successful and still be autistic. The question is often not whether they can do these things, but how much energy it takes to do them and what happens afterward. Another area that often stands out is social communication. Notice I said social communication, not just language. Many autistic adults have excellent vocabulary, strong verbal skills, and extensive knowledge. In fact, some are exceptionally articulate. However, social communication involves much more than speaking. It involves understanding the rhythm of conversation, knowing when to speak, when to listen, how much detail to provide, when someone is becoming bored, when a topic should be changed, when someone is hinting at something indirectly, and how to interpret unspoken social expectations. Some autistic adults naturally focus on the facts, details, and information. They may enjoy discussing topics in depth and may be highly knowledgeable in areas that interest them. Sometimes conversations can become centered around sharing information rather than maintaining the reciprocal back and forth flow that many people expect socially. This is not a character flaw. It is not selfishness. It is not narcissism. It is a different communication style. Some autistic individuals also find indirect communication frustrating. They may prefer people to say what they mean rather than relying on hints, assumptions, vague suggestions, or implied messages. They often value clarity, accuracy, and directness. In some cases, language may also become less flexible during stress. Someone who is usually articulate may become more rigid, repetitive, quiet, blunt, or unable to explain what they are feeling when overwhelmed. Another important area involves the unwritten rules of social interaction. Many social rules are never explicitly taught. Most people simply absorb them through observation and experience. These rules govern things like personal space, eye contact, tone of voice, conversational timing, humor, flirting, workplace dynamics, and social expectations. Many autistic adults report that these unwritten rules felt confusing throughout their life. Some learned them through observation, some learned them through trial and error, some learned them through painful social experiences. As a result, autistic individuals are often misunderstood. Someone may be viewed as rude when they are trying to be honest. Someone may be viewed as cold when they are overwhelmed. Someone may be viewed as arrogant when they are sharing information they find interesting. Someone may be viewed as uninterested when they're actually concentrating intensely. Someone may be viewed as dishonest because their eye contact does not match what other people expect. These misunderstandings can create years of frustration, shame, and self doubt. Let's talk about eye contact for a moment because it's one of the most common stereotypes. Many people assume that autistic individuals cannot make eye contact. Some autistic people avoid eye contact, others make eye contact but find it uncomfortable, distracting, or effortful. Some make too much eye contact because they learned they were supposed to. Others look near a person's eyes rather than directly into them. Reality is that eye contact is far more variable than many people realize. The same thing is true of body language and emotional expression. Some autistic adults have a more neutral facial expression. Some may speak in a way that others perceive as monotone, unusually formal, too intense, too quiet, or too loud for the situation. Others may struggle to express emotion through body language in ways people expect. Importantly, this does not mean that they lack emotion. It does not mean that they lack empathy. And it certainly does not mean that they do not care. This is a good place to address a few common misconceptions. Autism is not low intelligence. It is not a lack of empathy. It is not caused by poor parenting. It is not simply being shy. Autism is not just liking routines, and it's not something that only affects children. It's not a moral failing or a personality defect. Many autistic adults are deeply empathetic, highly intelligent, incredibly loyal, exceptionally creative, and strongly committed to the people and causes they care about. Another major area involves sensory processing. Most people have preferences. Most people have sounds they dislike, lights they find irritating, or clothing they find uncomfortable. Sensory differences in autism tend to be more intense, persistent, and functionally meaningful. Some autistic individuals are highly sensitive to noise, bright lights, strong smells, food textures, clothing textures, temperature changes, crowded environments, or unexpected touch. Others actively seek sensory experiences. Some do both depending on the situation. These sensory differences can affect everything from relationships and work performance to sleep, hygiene, transportation, shopping, and daily functioning. A person may avoid certain stores because of the lighting or noise. They may wear the same types of clothing because the texture is tolerable. They may become irritable or shut down in crowded environments. They may struggle with certain foods because of texture, smell, or temperature rather than preference alone. Many autistic adults also engage in behaviors that help regulate sensory input. These behaviors might include fidgeting, pacing, rocking, listening to the same music repeatedly, following specific routines, organizing objects, or engaging in repetitive movements. From the outside, these behaviors may seem unusual. From the inside, they often serve an important purpose. They help regulate stress, reduce overload, improve focus, and create a sense of predictability. Speaking of predictability, many autistic adults have a strong preference for routine and structure. This does not necessarily mean they like every aspect of their routine. Rather, routine often reduces uncertainty. Unexpected schedule changes, unclear expectations, last minute plan changes, and ambiguity can create significant stress for some autistic individuals. Predictability allows them to prepare mentally for what comes next and reduces the cognitive demands of constantly adapting to new situations. Another common characteristic involves highly focused interests. These are sometimes called special interests. The specific topic is not what matters. The topic could be psychology, history, weather, fitness, trains, animals, medicine, music, technology, sports, statistics, gaming, or almost anything else. What matters is the depth and intensity of the interest. Many autistic individuals derive tremendous enjoyment, comfort, structure, identity, and expertise from these interests. In adults, these interests can be a significant strength. They may support academic achievement, career specialization, creativity, research ability, technical skill, or deep expertise. At the same time, they can create social friction if the person has difficulty recognizing when others are not equally interested. Again, the issue is not that the person does not care about others. The issue may be that the preferred topic is highly regulating, meaningful, and cognitively rewarding, while shifting away from it may require effort. Many autistic individuals also process information in detail focused ways. They may notice inconsistencies, rules, exceptions, definitions, patterns, and small details that other people might overlook. This can be incredibly valuable in fields involving research, science, engineering, medicine, psychology, technology, quality assurance, art, design, and many other areas. At the same time, focusing strongly on details can occasionally make it harder to rapidly interpret the broader social context of a situation. Literal or precise communication can also be a part of the pattern. Some autistic adults prefer direct language and may dislike vague instructions, indirect hints, or unclear expectations. This does not mean autistic people cannot understand humor, sarcasm, metaphor, or subtle communication. Many can, but indirect communication may require more conscious interpretation, and the person may prefer clarity because clarity reduces unnecessary ambiguity. Another reason autism is sometimes missed is because it frequently co-occurs with other conditions. ADHD is particularly common, anxiety is common, depression is common, OCD is common. Trauma-related symptoms may also be present. Sometimes these diagnoses are accurate and exist alongside autism. Sometimes they partially explain someone's experiences but do not fully explain the entire picture. For example, someone may have social anxiety because they have had years of confusing or painful social interactions. Someone may have depression related to chronic masking, loneliness, repeated invalidation, or sensory overload. Someone may have ADHD and autism together, creating an internal experience that can feel contradictory. The person may want novelty but need sameness. They may crave stimulation but become overwhelmed by it. They may want connection but become exhausted by social interaction. Adult autism is also more likely to be missed in women, intellectually gifted individuals, and highly masking individuals. Historically, much of the early autism research focused on more obvious male presentations. As our understanding has improved, we have recognized that autism can present differently across individuals. Some people learn to camouflage early. Some develop strong observational skills. Some become exceptionally good at studying and imitating social behavior. As a result, they may appear socially successful while still experiencing significant internal difficulty. Some girls and women may have interests that appear more socially acceptable, such as animals, books, psychology, celebrities, art, or relationships, even when the intensity of the interest is clinically significant. Some people are described as shy, sensitive, perfectionistic, dramatic, mature for their age, or anxious rather than autistic. Another important point is that social withdrawal does not always mean lack of interest. Some autistic adults want relationships, but social situations may be confusing, overstimulating, unpredictable, or exhausting. Some avoid social situations because they have repeatedly been misunderstood. Others avoid them because the sensory environment is too much. Others avoid them because they're tired of masking. So, when an autistic person withdraws, the reason may be overload, uncertainty, anxiety, or self protection, not indifference. Many autistic adults also report a long history of being told they are too sensitive, too intense, too quiet, too blunt, too emotional, not emotional enough, too rigid, too awkward, or not trying hard enough. Over time, those experiences can create shame and self doubt. For some adults, learning about autism provides a framework that finally helps make sense of experiences that previously seemed disconnected. That does not mean everyone who relates to these experiences is autistic. Many of these characteristics can occur in people who are not autistic. The key issue is the overall pattern. It is the developmental history. It is the persistence across situations and across time. It is the degree to which these characteristics affect daily functioning. Autism is not diagnosed from one trait, one habit, one preference, or one internet checklist. If someone strongly relates to this video, a reasonable first step is to learn more from credible sources, reflect on developmental history, and consider whether these patterns have been present since childhood, even if they look different at different ages. It can also be helpful to ask, were social rules confusing? Were sensory issues present? Were routines unusually important? Were interests unusually intense? Was there a pattern of masking, exhaustion, or feeling different? For some people, a formal autism evaluation can provide clarity, validation, accommodations, and greater self understanding. It can also help differentiate autism from ADHD, anxiety, OCD, trauma, depression, personality related concerns, or other clinical presentations. For others, even without pursuing formal diagnosis, learning more about autism can help with self compassion and practical adjustments. The goal is not to turn autism into a trend or to diagnose every person who feels different. The goal is also not to dismiss people who recognize a lifelong pattern in themselves and are trying to understand it. The more balanced position is this: autism can be missed in adults, especially in people who are verbal, intelligent, high masking, socially motivated, or outwardly successful. At the same time, diagnosis should be thoughtful, careful, and based on more than a checklist or a single video. If there is one main takeaway from today's video, it is this: adult autism often becomes visible not by asking only whether someone can function, but by asking how they function, how much effort it takes, what supports they need, and what happens when the mask comes off. Autism is not a character flaw, not a lack of empathy, and not a lack of intelligence, and not something that automatically prevents someone from living a meaningful life. For many adults, understanding autism is less about finding something wrong and more about finally having a framework that explains how their brain has been working all along. I'd also be interested in hearing your guys' experience in the comments. Have you been formally evaluated for autism? Were you diagnosed as a child or as an adult? What misconceptions about autism have you encountered? Have you experienced stigma, masking, challenges accessing treatment, or difficulty obtaining an evaluation? If you're comfortable sharing, I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you found this video helpful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It helps more people find this content and support future videos covering psychology, mental health, and neurodevelopmental conditions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.